You're listening to Conversations Ignite.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today I'm joined by Jonni Jordyn. I'm glad to have her here with us today. She is an author whose journey spans music, poetry, and script writing before she dived into the world of novel writing. She's the author of several books, including The Lost Art of Magic, The Old Child, The Orb of Destiny, and with her latest book, The Mother of All Verses, a cyber thriller packed with action, conspiracies, and a hacker at the center. Joni, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So awesome. So you've had a long creative career, starting with music and poetry, before and script writing before moving into novels. So what made you transition into novel writing?
Well, I was playing with some top Latin bands in California, and that was going along nicely. But my other job, my day job, the one that pays the mortgage, was having trouble. I'm a developer. I work in IT, and everything was shifting out there in California. So I ended up moving to Phoenix, thinking that I'll make that my central ground, and I will travel around the country doing consultant work. But I could not remain in the band when I left California and went to Phoenix. So that was I started up another band. It was starting to go well, but it was a threesome, and one guy quit. So I said, well, what do I do now? And I did some writing in high school and college, and I really enjoyed it. So I went back to writing.
Oh, interesting. What a neat way to kind of transition into it. How does your background in music and other forms of like storytelling kind of influence your writing right now?
Well, the only actual influence to my writing is I have a book. I haven't re-released it yet, but it's a crime novel about members of a band, and the drummer's missing, and the manager is super suspicious.
Oh, very cool. Now, do most of your books, are they kind of like thrillers? Is that the kind of style you're writing in?
Apparently so. I mean, the Magic series is fantasy. It's magic. It's modern realism, where it's happening in today's time. But the reviews I'm getting are all praising the action part of it and how I blend the action with the mythology and with the uh, fantasy, the unreal powers. So, but yeah, I have several books across different genres, and they're all praising the action. So, I guess so.
Oh, that's cool. When you started writing, did you think that this was the kind of genre that you were gonna kind of get into, or did you have a clue, or did you just go kind of with what your gut had?
My gut, even in college, I wrote short stories about anything and everything. And so, yeah, I just have, I get a weird idea in my head and I think, oh, that's interesting. Or even better, I think about a person that would be an interesting person to write a novel around. And so I've got two novels that are basically written about a single person and either how cantankerous they are or how clever they are. And I start with that and go from there.
Ah, very cool. So it's kind of not really thought out. You just get an idea and kind of run with it.
I do think it out after I get that idea. Yeah, run with it starts with a major outline, and that gets fluffed up into a rough draft, and then I really start to polish it.
Now, it sounds like you've traveled extensively throughout your career. Has that kind of given you some ideas or kind of influenced like stories and how you kind of come up with the ideas?
Not the ideas, but it has given me some backdrops. The Lost Art of Magic starts in the bayous of Louisiana. And I spent quite some time visiting those bayous, listening to how people talk, and looking exactly what the bayous are, how they are, what the water looks like, what the how dark it can get when you go into the deepest groves of trees. So that's I started with that to make kind of an illustrative feel for what these people are surrounded with.
Oh, that's very neat. So doing a lot of background, kind of background research and coming up with an idea and then actually researching like places and stuff.
Yeah, and researching how people talk. That's a big one. And names. How do you come up with names for people? Well, I researched it and found out names for different time periods in different places.
Ah, that makes sense. I never thought about that, but especially when you're writing a novel or any kind of book or any kind of short story, that makes a lot of sense that you want to kind of have the right names for the period and and make sure they're speaking the correct way.
Yeah, and the name and the way they talk can give the reader a fair clue about what kind of person they are, where they're from, and even what they look like.
Ah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's neat. I never thought about that. So the Mother of All Verses, this is your latest novel that's been released, correct?
Yeah, and it's the mother of all viruses.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. My Mother of All Viruses. That makes a lot more sense. I am so sorry. Now it features an ex-hacker, uh, government conspiracies, and like high-stakes cyber threats. What inspired that storyline?
Uh, well, okay, let's go back in our memories, and when Iraq invaded Kuwait, if you remember, that was going to be the mother of all wars, and so that inspired the title. Um, and part of the inspiration for this book was a program that I wrote that actually it modeled genes and chromosomes, and I learned a lot in how the breeding and the genetics work when you're duplicating genes and chromosomes, and that is actually a large part of the book, and where this kid who was a hacker in his childhood, and he happened to hack somebody who would become the president because they did some bad things for his father, and so he wanted retribution. Well, um, he became famous in the hacker community for how thorough he was and how he thought everything out. And going into college, people kind of wanted to no, don't let him get anywhere near a computer. But he one campus professor gave him a chance, gave him that second chance, and that led him into writing a program that ended up getting hacked and merged into another program with a virus that started to grow.
Oh, wow.
He's a white hat. He didn't write the virus.
Now, so it sounds like you've got some experience in the computer world since you're a developer.
Yes, yes, and about 45 years of developing.
Wow. Now, how much of um your book is based on like real life or like real life things?
It is that book is very much real life. Um, there's when you get to the surprise ending and you get the big reveal, it may stray a little bit. It goes a little further into the sci-fi, but during most of the book, it's about how people react and about good guys and bad guys, and it's about international uh, spies and and the FBI and how they treat something, how they see something as one kind of a crime where maybe the CIA sees it a different way. And so a lot of the book has chases and kidnappings. And for an example, I'll give this one a little bit away a little bit. There is a note left on a computer that says, if you want back what is missing, meet me here or at this place at this time. Well, coincidentally, the secretary for that department disappeared. She ran off to help her sister do something, and so they're jumping to conclusions. Oh, she's been kidnapped. So the FBI is going directly into a kidnap response, while certain members of the military and the CIA are treating it a little bit differently for a whole different purpose. And so it twists the way your view of things. Looking at the same thing, it can come up different.
Oh, wow, that's so cool. What a neat storyline to come up with. Now, obviously, you have some experience in the field, but did you have to do any like special research into like hacking or cybersecurity, or even like any government agencies like FBI, CIA, or maybe NSA?
I did research into the government entities. I didn't do research into the hacking. I don't hack. I don't know hacking. So it's not like I didn't need to. I just uh, he wasn't really writing a virus, and he wasn't really hacking. So I didn't feel the need to delve too deep into that. Um, but the government agencies, I've had to do a lot of research about what people are. For instance, FBI agents are special agents. CIA, no, not CIA, NSA operatives are analysts. So I had to research, how they talk to each other. Do they work with each other, and things like that.
Now, how long did it take for you to research all of that?
Well, I don't quite remember that because I actually wrote the book in 2010. But I can tell you, it took a little over a year to write and rewrite and rewrite and I think I did about 24 rewrites. I think that took a little over a year.
Now the book has a lot of elements like action, suspense, conspiracies. How do you balance all of those kinds of different genres, like writing genres, into all one and have it like all a cohesive story?
Mostly by not knowing what I'm doing. Writers today are taught about things and plot devices, and I just relied on my well. I am autistic with gifts, so I just relied on my own creativity and just went for it, and it came out okay.
Oh, that's cool. Um, so what can readers expect from the Mother of All Virus series moving forward? Are you going to have a series for it? Are there going to be sequels?
It's a trilogy. The second book, well, it's hard for me to go on the second book without giving away the ending of the first book. But in the second book, we meet a AI character that goes rogue, and when I mean rogue, I mean learning. Our first character learned new ways of creating energy, and going rogue means learning that and stealing that technology and growing to the point of being a planet killer. So the first book puts our planet Earth on the brink of World War III. This book goes to more of a planet killing universal threat. I am currently writing the third and final book to that, which is actually it's more introspective, and it gets into what the universe is. We've got the Big Bang theory, how it expands. Well, I'm going to carry that a bit further to that. It will stop expanding like a rubber band and start to contract. And when it does that, it's going to explode again into a new Big Bang.
That's awesome. So when's the next book coming out?
I have another book coming out middle of April. And that book will be following a prehistoric tribe of about 10 or 12,000 years ago that had lived in isolation from all other tribes. They were in a valley. There's no one else around. They're hard to get to. But there was there's always a flood story, isn't there? And there was a flood that wiped out their entire village, and they took it as a sign to move back up into the mountains to their ancestral home. And it's a very difficult and even gruesome travel. This book, I originally released it as a chapter series serial, where I released a new chapter every month, and it was doing well, but Amazon didn't like something about how it was growing, and so they put a kibosh to it. So I said, okay, fine, just bring them all together and release it as a single book.
That's very cool. So your books, a lot of them deal with some themes like self-discovery, resilience, maybe high stakes conflicts. Are those personal experiences or beliefs? Are there any personal experiences or beliefs that kind of influence those kind of themes?
Yeah, not directly, but yes. My therapist says that I am highly resilient. And so you're right. To be able to overcome these troubling odds, I can put some of myself in how I'm going to solve the problem. The problems I just kind of imagine, and I try to think, okay, what is going to be the big obstacle for this story? And I imagine it, I build it up, and then I solve it.
Um, so the mother of all viruses includes some government cover-ups and like cyber warfare. Do you think that real-world technology is heading towards that kind of scenario?
The what happens is um, the college kid invents something that is very promising as far as being able to create free and cheap energy. Um, and so others naturally want it, don't want it they want to own it and make money off it. They don't want some kid with these highfalutin ideas to put it out there for free energy for the world. And one of them plants a virus in this kid's program. Now, I wrote a program in the 80s that was able to simulate genes, genetics, chromosomes, and breeding of them. That's kind of where this kid's program went along those lines. So when this person injected this virus into it, the genetic part started to make manipulations to this virus, and it grew into something that he didn't intend for it to be, and it somehow got out on the internet and started to infest government computers. So now you got spies that, well, the Russian spies don't want America to have this cheap energy. They don't want America to control it. The government spies don't want people to have so much power and have access to their computers. So it just kind of gets out of control.
Do you think that you would ever want your books to kind of be adapted into a TV series or a movie?
Yeah. Are you listening, Hollywood? Yeah. Oh, one one of my reviewers, it was a magazine reviewer, had mentioned that my story comes across as a cinematic style. And that's because of the way I have scenes chopping back and forth, and things are happening in parallel, and I'm letting you follow them kind of in parallel. So yeah, it should be an easy adaptation.
Oh, that'd be neat. I think that'd be awesome. So, who would you want your dream cast to be?
Whew. Okay. I have another book that I just recently released called The Diva of Mud Flats. And the diva, who is an opera singer, um, I would love her to be Anne Hathaway. I we've all heard Anne Hathaway sing. We know she can belt it out, and I think she would be just marvelous for that part.
I love that you would someday absolutely love it if Hollywood would turn your books into a movie or TV show. I know a lot of authors, they don't want that.
They might be young and have time.
There are some books and some series that really do translate well into like a TV show or a movie, and I think that what you do and the style that you do it in would adapt very well. I think it'd be very cool one day to see that.
Me too. Again, Hollywood, are you listening?
So some of the other books that you've written, like the Lost Art of Magic, it explores like self-discovery and authenticity, correct?
It does. It's now a number of reviewers are calling it a young adult book, and it's youngish, but young adult actually goes all the way down to 12 years old, and that might be a little too young. I think I would personally uh, draw the line at 14 because there is some SA in the book, and that is a something I use to show exactly how evil and how despicable the bad guys are, because they see nothing against taking a young girl and doing something with her. There's no uh, graphic scenes in the book, but there are a couple scenes where this occurs, and um, it's there's the growth of multiple people. There's the heroine, the star of the book, is 16, and she is learning to be a young woman. She's learning to deal with these new powers that she got, and she's learning how to deal with these people who want to kill her. Um, and in fact, in later books, she becomes somewhat incapacitated, and there's a new young girl that she had mentored who comes up to be the new growth uh, girl who's and this is the one that's called the old child, because she's 12 years old and talks and behaves well beyond her years, and she grows into the old child. So yeah, there's a lot of that in my books.
That's very neat to see. How did you what inspired you to write that book?
uh the first book, The Lost Art of Magic, it was just an idea that had been rumbling around in my head for a long time, and the idea was that old cultures, and going back to the Dark Age, old cultures believed in magic. I mean, they believed in it like, well, yeah, of course. I mean, who's going to question the existence of magic and witches and sorcerers? Well, in come the Latin army and the Christian faith, and they're going to question all the magic, and to the point where today Well, in my book, I will eventually explain how the magic disappeared. That comes actually, the full explanation comes in the second book. It's hinted at in the first book, and the magic disappears and it's gone until this girl rediscovers it, quite by accident. And so my theory is that yes, it used to be real. Something happened that made it go away, and now we think it's just a myth that it never happened because they're not smart enough to realize that a matchstick isn't magic. So that's actually that thought of something that used to be common is no longer. I wanted to kind of explain that. I also wanted to put magic into a world that fits with physics and science. So there is reasons for why people can have powers.
Ah, what a neat concept. That's very cool. Now, everything that you said, it sounds like you do write in multiple different kinds of genres. You've got, you know, cyber thrillers and fantasies. Do you have a favorite genre to write in, or does it just depend on your thoughts and the story and what you come up with?
It depends a lot on the thought at the time. I have some books I've started and put aside. I may go back and finish. And one of those is really delving with religion in an old South American tribe. Um, Lately, I've written 2 rom-coms, and boy, were those fun to write. And so uh, once I finish this book, I have to go and finish the Magic series. So uh, whether or not I get to doing more things that I love to do kind of depends on how long I live.
Okay, so it seems like just your genre kind of what you feel like at the time. That's pretty cool.
Genre fluent. No, fluid.
I know that I would assume a lot of authors are kind of stuck in one genre.
And I think a lot of publishers appreciate that and recommend that. It's a lot easier to to publish yourself to a single set of readers that know, oh, you're coming out with another book, and I know I'm going to like that book because that's my kind of book. Whereas I'm kind of reaching out to multiple different groups of readers, and some of them might say, "Oh, I like that genre too, but I don't like this one." So it's challenging, but I write what I love.
Yeah, I can definitely see how, like, especially a publisher would want it to be geared towards one kind of genre, but it doesn't give the fun aspect of being able to write what you want to write.
Yeah, well, it's like Michael Crichton wrote the Jurassic Park series, um, and that was kind of a mix of sci-fi and fantasy, and but he's also written some other books that would take a different direction. Um, Similarly with Stephen King, he has some that are really hardcore uh, horror, and then he has others that are like Thinner is one, and others that kind of go onto a different, not quite horror, but maybe more thriller, and so it gets done.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, like you said, Stephen King is a very successful author, so even he can change up genres and make it interesting, which is that I like to see that because I may not like one genre, but I give it a shot, and maybe I do turn into liking that.
Yeah. Well, like the virus book, the mother of all viruses, it is mostly suspense and intrigue, and the kidnappings, the brutal treatment of prisoners. Those are all in there. But as you get to the end, this is science fiction because this AI becomes well, I wrote it before we had Chat GPT, but the AI learned to speak and learn to think and learn to do things.
Interesting. That's so cool. Um, Now you just mentioned Chat GPT. Um, and do you think that do you think that you'll use some of the newer AI technologies that are out there as kind of like not talking points but ideas for books going forward?
No, no. Um, I've used AI to be a smarter spell checker. Um, to be able to tell the difference between where, and where. But I've also used Chat GPT particularly to to analyze my writing style and compare it to some other books and tell me who it's most like. But I won't use them to help me write the book or to tell me where are the plot holes. That's my job.
I imagine a lot of writers nowadays are kind of using something like ChatGPT or some kind of other AI based program, but it kind of takes away from the thought that the author has for the book.
Yeah, and ultimately they're all using the same program, so how much variety are they going to get from each other? Um, in my developing history, we always had to come to some company wants to buy this other product, and you've got to wait. Well, all your competitors are using that same program, so you don't have a competitive advantage by having that program. And it's but there's cost versus capability that always comes into play. I think it's kind of the same thing. If everyone's using AI to generate their programs or their books, um, they're what they generate is going to come out feeling flat because it's the same as everybody else.
Yeah, there's not as many ideas that a computer can come up with like a human.
Right.
Now, can you kind of walk us through your writing process? You said you kind of outlined after you get that idea. Do you outline extensively, or do you just kind of give a general outline? But how do you kind of develop the story along?
Um, there are when I started writing in the 70s, there were at that time we considered two different ways to write a book. One, you just sit down and go complete stream of consciousness, and you end up with this great big heap of words, and then you go through it and you cut out the stuff that didn't work and you trim it down. I take the opposite process. Instead of being subtractive, I'm additive. I write the outline, hopefully for the entire book. I say that because the book I'm finishing now, I reached a point and went, oh my goodness, there's half the outlines missing. And I had to re-outline the ending. So, but hopefully I've outlined the whole book. And that outline might only have a sentence, a partial sentence, or maybe two sentences about what this scene is going to be about. I get them all kind of, and while I'm outlining, I can move them around, put them in a new sequence, and organize them into chapters. Then I start writing, and I might. There's an adage in writing of show, don't tell. When I'm doing the first draft, I might go through and do a lot of telling, and so it doesn't create a huge section. And then I finish up, but doing that allows me to understand better the relationships between people and the interactions with different events. Then I go through it again and I start adding in more of the fluff we want to see, the exterior, the describe where we're at, what does it smell like, what does it look like, and or maybe delving into people's minds and how they're feeling, how this certain event is affecting them. So I'll do that on the third pass. And then I usually go another 12 more passes where I'm just going through now and making sure that what I did in chapter 8 doesn't break what I did in chapter 2. And I'm also at this point making sure that everyone's name is spelled correctly, because believe it or not, I found that in chapter 7 I started calling somebody by a different name. And so I have to fix those little things. And that's where I'm catching if I made any plot holes. But I'm also catching grammar and spelling errors. And by the time I'm all done, that's when I put it into formatting, and I'm preparing it for print. And at that point, it's ready to go.
Wow. So that original outline, you just keep outlining and outlining on top of it, and creating the whole story as you go. That's neat. I've not heard that personally before. And it makes sense because you're just going on top and on top and on top and creating more layers.
Right. It's like I plant 212 seeds, and then I go through and help each of them grow.
Ah, very neat, very cool. Now, I'm sure at some point in time you've kind of had some writer's block.
Yeah. Yeah. Where are you going with this?
How do you get past that?
Um, I don't have a specific ritual. I about what was it 6 or 7 months ago, I decided to completely rebrand all my books. I took them off of Amazon. I'm going to put them back on with. I hired a publicist, and we're going to do new covers. And I went through and did new edits on each book. And this is all. I also started my own publishing company, my own imprint. So I'm going back and releasing them individually. And I lost my train of thought. What was the question?
How do you how do you go about getting past writer's block?
Oh, right. Because see, that's how I get the writer's block. Was I'm doing all these things. I'm editing them all. I'm re-releasing, and then I come back to, oh, I have a book that I was working on and put it on the shelf 6 months ago, and now I have to get back into it. And so there's a lot of writer's block right there in trying to remember what was in my mind when I wrote these outlines and when I started these chapters, and where was I going with this, and why did I have this character do that? So for me to get past that, I went back and started reading what I had written, and I even went back to the second and first book to read the things I wrote there, and eventually I would write part of the outline, and I'd go, okay, and I start to feeling it come back. That's how I got over it. I had to kind of research my own writing, and then just start plugging at it.
And I guess maybe sometimes you just gotta stop for a little bit, give it a break, and then go back and reread it and start over.
I've done that. I have a writers group that I go to sometimes, and it's not a critique group. It's just you come and show what you've done. Well, nothing I write on my books I can't read them in 10, 12 minutes. So I will sometimes stop and write some poetry and take that to the group.
Ah, that's so neat. Now, what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced being an author, and kind of how have you overcome some challenges?
Well, um, I'll start with getting lots of really good reviews, but it never translated into sales. Um, I can write the books. I'm apparently not very good at selling the books. So this is where I said, well, I'm coming up on retirement, and I'd like this to actually become a stream of money, an income uh, when I retire. So that's when I said, okay, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to hire a publicist. I'm going to do all the things I need to do. In fact, even right now, I'm looking at other things I can do, other places where I can release the books, other places where I can, start setting up a following. And that's what I'm doing. And that's hard. That is the hard part. It's, even when I was young and the school had a candy sale, somebody had to walk me around to do the sale because either I was too shy or, it's not in my nature.
Yeah, that makes sense. Lots of people are great at different things. Obviously, you're a very talented writer, and I would imagine if I wrote, I think I'd have the same problem and being able to get it out there. And
For some people, the writing might be the hard part. For me, the writing is actually the easy part, and getting it out in people's hands is the hard part. That's where I need to get people to help me.
that seems like, does your publisher help you get it out there, or is it all on you?
Well, it's my publicist. They're getting it out there. They're helping me. They're finding me blogs to get on. They're finding me magazines to review my work, and they're helping me actually just find reviewers in general to start, give me some feedback.
Now, if you could co-write a book with any author, no matter living, dead, um, who would it be, and why would you write with them?
It would probably be Arthur C. Clarke. Um, I I could not read enough of Arthur C. Clarke growing up, but I also read a lot of Edgar Rice Burroughs. Um, but I think Arthur C. Clarke would be my number one.
Are there any books that you're currently reading right now that are by another author that you just can't put down?
No, I have read hundreds of books over my life. But right now, in general, if I have time to read, I have time to write. Um, the On the other hand, when I go out on my bike rides, and I didn't ride much last year, but in previous years I would ride for a couple thousand miles a year. And when I go out on my bike rides, I will listen to Audible.
Ah, okay. Do you ever get any kind of inspiration from other people's books?
No, that's partly why I don't read a lot. Um, Even when I was a musician, I was too busy in rehearsals and doing the arrangements and going out and doing shows to be listening too much to what our competitors were doing. Um, and part of that was as I was doing arrangements and writing new material, I didn't want to be influenced by what others were doing.
So you want to be totally authentic.
Yes, which also might make me, you know, totally not like professional, or I don't know. It's totally not trained.
Yeah, sometimes that makes the best.
I hope.
So, if you could offer some advice to anybody that's listening right now that's maybe aspiring to be a writer, what kind of advice would you give them?
My first piece of advice is if you're going to write, you have to make sure that you know that you're creative in your heart, in your soul, that you are creative and you can create these ideas and then explore them and put them on paper. Um, if you don't have that true creative soul, maybe there's other things you can do like editing and we always need more editors, but editing and beta reading. But to be a writer, you really you can't. Well, I was going to say you can't be taught to write, but you can be taught to write nonfiction. So that would be another avenue. But just, be prepared that if this isn't one of your true inbred talents, that maybe you have to attack it from a different angle.
That's some good advice. I like it. Now you have done a lot of different things over your career. Sounds like you've been very successful. It sounds like you're a very successful writer. How would you define success in your own words?
Well, right now my success is in my feedback on my reviews. Overall, my books, I'm still maintaining a above 4.9 star on Amazon. And so there's success in how I'm being received. However, I'd like to be able to the next time someone asks me to say, well, my bank accounts are my success too. But my major success is in my personal life. I have people and friends, and someone in particular who loves my books and asked me to marry. So we're gonna. That would be my biggest success.
That's so awesome. I love how you kind of success isn't all in money and wealth and everything. It's just being successful to yourself.
Yeah, but you got to eat.
That's true. Um, Jonni, it has been absolutely a pleasure to have you on today. Such a great writer. I know that a lot of my listeners are going to definitely want to pick up your book. Where can they pick up any of your books at?
Right now, the only place to get them is on Amazon. And if you just go to Amazon and search for Jonni Jordyn, that's Johnny with an I and Jordan with a Y. Search for Jonni Jordyn, and you should see all of my books. And go ahead and browse them. Take a bit. I also have a website which might give you a little more information, and it's www.jordanatlargebooks.com.
Awesome. Do you have any other social media that they can follow you on? Any YouTube or TikTok or anything?
I am definitely on TikTok. And I have put a number of my poems on TikTok if anyone likes poetry. I have a few videos I've put together showing some of my reviews and my book covers. I also have them on Lemon 8, and there's another one. I've started putting some of them on Clapper.
Like I said, Jonni, it's been such a great pleasure to have you. Can't thank you enough for being on today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Guys, I'll put all of Jonni's links down below. Go check out Amazon, check out her website, and make sure you buy some of her books. And as always, thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Conversations Ignite. See you next time.